Welcome to the neighborhood. A proper welcome for this man who he's a multiple MAC Award nominee. MAC is the Manhattan Association of Cabaret and Clubs. City cabaret critic Elizabeth Olfers, who
Yes.
the producer of this show knows personally, called him, quote, the gentleman of song. No one has ever called me the gentleman of anything. I'm telling you.
You've never been called the gentleman.
She's very kind and very flattering. she's
Also,
she's a good lady.
roles on The Sopranos, he was a piece here and there on Spin City, but mostly it's cabaret for this man who is doing his latest 20 plus 3 in 2023 at
Yes.
54 Below, and that's happening this Tuesday, August 15th. Get your
Yes.
54below.org. So what is the meaning of 20 plus 3? Is it that you've had 23 years in the biz?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, 3 years ago in 2020, Tom Nelson, my musical director, and I were going to celebrate 20 years of our musical collaboration. But unfortunately, the pandemic came along and we had to be postponed. So this year, we both decided to present a 20-year plus 3 anniversary celebration, thus 20 plus 3 in 2023. And we decided to really make it special. And in order to do that, I got multi-cabaret award-winning singer and director Jeff Harner to direct my show.
He's been on the show. We know
He
him.
is phenomenal. He is phenomenal. I've always wanted to work with Jeff. And I'm also being accompanied by my trio, not only Tom Nelson as musical director and pianist, but Tom Kirshmer on bass and Peter Grant on drums.
Wow. See, I've always wanted a big pianist. But there, I don't know what that means. Now, let me ask you one thing. First of all, that is not a Hirschfeld behind you, but that looks like an original.
No, that's a John Canemaker. John Canemaker is a cartoonist, a
Patchwork Family, John Canemaker.
Yes, and an Academy Award-winning illustrator.
Who cares? Who's on the Patchwork Family? That's all that matters. And he taught at NYU when Dave was going there. So he taught animation at New York University. That's a real John Canemaker.
That's me. John did a caricature of me.
Why did he? Under what circumstances was he animating you, or something, or what?
John is a friend of mine. John is a good friend of mine, and also a good friend of my friends, Ken Starretts. And he and Ken have known each other for many, many years. Then that's how I got to know John. And John just lives 2 blocks away from me, and he's come to see my show. And I think it was one of my Christmas shows I was promoting. And he decided to do a caricature of me singing in a tuxedo with a microphone in my hand.
It's lovely. You have an original. Everything just comes back. It's more coming back to Dave. I'll tell him as soon as the interview's over. All this stuff, but he just remembers he was shocked when he was going to school. He was like an undergraduate. It was like 1980. My God, far. No, it was 1981 or 2. And he'd go up to get advising at Tish, or whatever the hell it was called at that point. And then suddenly in a room, there was John Canemaker, who he watched as a kid, showing kids how to draw on TV.
On the Patchwork Family with Carol Corbett.
Yes, and Rags. And who else was on? Susie Pruden doing exercises.
Yeah,
she was on the thing. Who else was on that thing? I don't.
It was on WCBS TV Channel 2. And it was one of the early morning children's shows on Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. So are you in New York? You are a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker?
Yes, I was born in New York City at the now defunct St. Vincent's Hospital, and I was raised in Rockland County. And but I've always had a strong connection to New York. And in my show, I say that there's a spoiler alert. My love for New York will be a recurring theme tonight. So, and I've had this love affair with New York City. I was down. I lived in Orlando for 10 years, from 1989 to 1999.
Why?
Well, because a friend of mine suggested that the acting, singing business, was moving down to Orlando, Florida at that time.
Like Janet Art had one theater. What the hell?
Yeah.
What was
But the movie industry was supposedly moving down there. It never did. And I, after 10 years of being down there, and I just said, I need to be where I need to be, and in order to sing the songs that I want to sing. And a friend of mine, Eric Comstock, had just gotten some recent success with his Our Sinatra show, and he sent me a postcard. And I thought to myself, this was in 1999. I said, I just passed 40. And I thought to myself, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So I decided to bite the bullet and move to New York City. I never lived in the city. I was always afraid of the city. living because I thought I would never make it. But I thought, look, I don't have a wife, I don't have children, and if I fall on my face, I just and Jerome Kern, the Dorothy Fields' song, I just pick myself up, dust myself off, and start all over again. And that's what I did. And I hit the ground running, and that was in 1999. And in the following year, I met Tom Nelson, and I decided to do the cabaret thing, and I've been at it ever since. And Tom even said to me, because there was some, with cabaret, there's always it's not easy, and especially when you're starting over, as I was doing. I was trying to make up for lost time. But he said to me at one point, he said, Richard, you're a perfect example of the little engine that could and did. And so I was very flattered to hear that. And he's right, because I just kept going. And singing has always been my passion. And that's what's kept me going through the rough times, especially through my health challenges, which I went through in 2013.
That was, I mean, I wanted to talk about New York first, but let's go through this. I mean, it was not just, oh, you were feeling poorly, oh, you had COVID back then, but no, you had the big
jaw cancer, and I had to. I thought it was a canker sore that wouldn't go away, and my dentist was trying to get me to an oral surgeon. And finally, when it got to the point where I was brushing my teeth and blood was coming out, and the canker sore wasn't going away, I made an appointment with the oral surgeon, and then I saw my dentist, and he opened I opened my mouth for him, and he took a look, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, I'm going to twist your arm. I want you to see your oral surgeon. I said, I've already made an appointment with him. And when I went to see him, it was true. It was a single cell carcinoma, stage 4. And by the time I went down to Emory University Hospital, where my family, they're in Georgia, most of them are in Atlanta, Georgia. I went down to Emory University Hospital to see a doctor. And by the time I got down there, it had spread to the jawbone. And so they arranged for me to, this was in September of 2013, they arranged for me to have the operation October 1st, a couple of weeks later. And
it's possible. I mean, obviously, yeah.
And so I had it done, and it was a 13-hour operation. I had my left jaw replaced by the fibula of my left leg. I underwent recovery. I went through herbal chemotherapy, radiation, and one of the most terrifying things was when I was intubated for a whole week after the surgery. I couldn't make any vocal sound, which was terrifying.
Were you under sedation, or were you awake and just?
I was awake. I'm not during the surgery. I was under sedation, obviously, but after the surgery, when I was intubated, I couldn't utter a sound, and that was terrifying because I just had a magic marker and a plastic tablet, and I was trying to write, and my sister couldn't understand what I was trying to say, and I would get so frustrated. She said, "Don't get mad." I said, and then I realized how important it is to be able to communicate, and how and that's why I have the utmost respect and compassion to this day for people undergoing serious illnesses or physical defects and who cannot, speak. And so one of my songs that I'm singing is by Charles Aznavour. It's called Quiet Love, about a man who's trying to communicate with the woman he's in love with, who is not able to vocally communicate. And so that really held a special meaning for me. In fact, I do an Aznavour suite, shall we say, a suite of songs. And that's one of the highlights of the show.
Actually, we have a question from the gallery here. Yes.
Did he have to learn, did he have to learn to speak again, or could he speak?
I had to learn to move my tongue. I had to learn how to swallow.
She taught me that on our honeymoon, but
I had to learn how to swallow. I had to learn how to chew. I had to learn how to speak, and also to sing. And when I got back to New York, I met with Tom Nelson. In our first session, it was like scraping gravel on a driveway because my range had diminished, and I had to work to get my range back. But I got my range back. It didn't affect my vocal cords, tongue, or lymph nodes. So I was, and it went from a stage 4 to a stage 3, curable. So I was very.
I mean, I guess you have to go back every couple of months and check, but you haven't had a recurrence in 20 years.
No.
10 years, excuse me. Yeah,
10
right.
years.
And it's amazing. I mean, honestly, when I hear what you did in the jaw, I expected like Roger Ebert, like a squash pumpkin. But no, how did they manage to, considering what you had done?
Yeah.
It's quite amazing that you look perfectly normal. I mean, and you can sing and speak perfectly normal.
Yes.
It's quite wonderful.
I can't really open my mouth as wide as I like to, but I can still produce the sounds and I can still enunciate and articulate the lyrics. And
Obviously, yes.
and being a devotee of the Great American Songbook, I love lyrics. I love the lyrics of Gershwin and Porter. And I mean, it's so important to get those words out as well as the music because it's so important.
So,
And
what was the time frame between walking out of the hospital to, hey, I'm ready to do a cabaret show?
okay, interesting question because in September 2013, I was about right before I was diagnosed. I was about to do a reprise of my Fred Astaire show, the Untapped Fred Astaire, and I had to cancel it. And so Sidney Meyer, lovely Sidney Meyer, Don't Tell Mama, he said, "Don't worry about it, Richard. Just do the show when you're well enough. Just get better." So I was determined that a year from that time, I would be able to do the show. So I had the operation in October. By December, I had the trach taken. I had a trach for 3 months. I had the trach taken out. I had the feeding tube taken out as well. They were so impressed by my recovery, by my quick recovery, that by January they were talking about January 2014. The doctors were talking about my going home, and so in February of 2014, 5 months later after the operation, I went home and I resumed my life, and I started to practice singing, and I got together with Tom, and we were determined to do the Fred Astaire show September of 2014, and which we did. And I was also invited because I had done a Burton Lane show. They were doing a salute to Burton Lane at the Mabel Mercer Cabaret Convention, and Jeff Harder invited me to be part of that same month. So it was a
So
blessing.
it's literally just over a year.
Yes, it's over a year. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And so I was able to say, and there was still some top notes I couldn't reach. We had to transpose, but I got most of my vocal range back, and it was a miracle.
Wow, mazel. Now, if people want to hear Richard Holbrook sing and the way he is now, you can go see him this Tuesday night, August 15th, at 54 Below. He's doing a show 20 plus 3 in 2023. Get your tickets at 54below.org. And they call it 54 Below because it's like underneath Studio 54 on, what is it, 300
Yes.
something West 54th Street? I don't know the exact, whatever.
It's 254 West 54th.
254 West 54th. Okay, so I didn't note that down, but you can say just figure out where Studio 54 is and go under it, and there you will be.
First get tickets.
Now, besides the sweet Aznavour suite that you are doing, what other songs are you doing, and what other artists are you doing in?
I'm doing sort of like a recap of what I've done in the past. A little bit of Burton Lane. There's a song that he wrote with Eve Harper called "Anything Can Happen in New York" from the MGM Film Babes on Broadway with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. I'm doing from my Rogers show, Richard Rogers show. I'm doing a medley of "I Feel at Home with You" and "Now Swell" from a Connecticut Yankee that he did with.
Going a little deep into the catalog there, aren't we?
And of course I do "Old Friends" by Sondheim, and also what else am I doing? Oh, and from the Burton Lane show, I'm doing "How Could You Believe Me When I Said I Loved You When You Know I've Been a Liar All My Life" from Royal Wedding.
Yes.
Yeah. And "Too Late Now" from Royal Wedding, which Miss Jane Powell introduced, and lovely Jane Powell. And also I do a medley with the musicians to show off Fred Astaire's. This is from my Fred Astaire show. To not only show off Fred Astaire's master ability as a singer and interpreter of lyrics, but also as a musician, because he was known to skillfully play the drums, bass, and piano. So I do Drum Crazy, I do Slap That Bass, and Fascinating Rhythm.
So do you actually go on the instruments yourself? You go?
No, I showcase my musicians.
Israel does them. Okay, got it. Yeah.
That showcases the musicians, and then and I salute New York. I do. They all laughed, and I happen to like New York, but it's really a very nice celebration of 23 years working with Tom Nelson, who I mean, I absolutely love that man. He's terrific. He's been wonderful to me. He's seen me at my best and seen me at my not so best. but we go back so far, and I'm so thrilled to be teamed with him and to be celebrating, um, to be being able to do what I love to do in New York City, and having been able to do it despite all the odds and all the the conflicts and things like that that happen. I want to tell you something, Dave. Every
By Sol to you.
I'm sorry, and sorry. I just want to say that every time I went through a difficulty, or there was a stumbling block, I would say to myself, no, no, I've got to keep focused. I've got a show coming up. I've got a show coming up, and I've got to really keep going. And that's what kept me going, was the fact that I would be singing. I would always have a singing engagement to do, and that's been my passion.
And it's still, I mean, even after you've got this big gig coming up on Tuesday at 51, what's
Yes.
after that? I mean, are you going
I'm
to?
hoping to maybe do it again. I'm hoping maybe to do it again because I think that there's it could it could stand a run, a little bit of a run, maybe two or
Right.
three. Yeah, because people who can't see it, I could do it again maybe in September, October, and we'll see what happens. But it's always nice to be asked back, and I'm hoping that 54 Below will ask me back.
Oh, hey, you never, or if not, maybe the LA Philharmonic or
Right, exactly. Anywhere. But even though I've done Don't Tell Mama for many, many years, and I love Sidney Meyer, and I haven't done the Laurie Beachman Theater, but I remember the wonderful Metropolitan Room, which is no more, unfortunately. That was Bernie Fershpan did a wonderful job in running that, and I missed that because it was so classy and so nice to appear in. And that was a tragedy that we lost that.
And I never
But
went to Danny's Skylight Room. Did you ever do that place? That was
I
never.
did that. Yes, Donald Schaefer. I knew Donald Schaefer very well, and that's how I got my start. In fact, there was a place on East 28th Street called Archie's Place that John Miller managed. And when I was first starting out, I thought, geez, I'd love to perform in a place like that. And John said, well, Richard, he sat me down. He said, Richard, I'm a devotee of cabaret. I'm a fan of cabaret, but I'm running a business, and you have to have so many people here to do your show. And if you don't, you're responsible. So I went over to Donald Schaefer, and I said, I tried to go into Archie's Place, but John kind of set me straight about that. I think I should start out at Danny's Skylight Room. And he said, Richard, I think you're right. And so that's what I did. And I went back and forth from Danny's to Don't Tell Mamas. But Sydney also, I should mention, Sydney gave me my first start in cabaret. And he's coming to the show. And I'm very happy. Yeah.
Well, tell him shalom from us because he's been on this program too, and
Yes.
known
Yeah.
for
He is.
decades.
If I may use the word, he is a mensch.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you also. We've talked so much about music and cabaret, but you all have a significant number of theater credits too. A lot of them regional and community theater in Rockland County.
Yes.
So, what was your favorite role in legit straight theater?
Oh, Clifford Anderson in Death Trap.
Oh, now which character is that? Is that the young?
He's the young writer who goes to the older playwright and tries to get support and help from him and advice. And little does the audience know, or the older playwright's wife know, that they're having an affair. So and among other things. And my second favorite role was Timmy Cleary in The Subject Was Roses by
Is he the alcoholic?
Frank Gilroy. Yeah.
Did you see the musical they just did of that off Broadway? They just did The Subject of Was Roses musical.
I didn't see that. No.
Which is played with Kelly O'Hara and who the hell was it? Irish guy. Oh, he plays a lot of Irish guys.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, doesn't matter. Let me ask you also, Richard Holbrook. Well, what did I want to ask you? You come from a surprisingly, I mean, not for Jewish people, because we just breed like rabbits, but you were one of 9 children. Is this true?
One of 9 children, yes.
Did you feel that you had to sing or whatever to stand out? Like, if you'd been an only child, you wouldn't be so.
I was sort of the maverick in the family because I was the only one who I was the only male who was not really sports oriented. I would watch old movies and musicals and things like that, which tells you a lot. But the thing is, I it was in high school that I first started to realize I could really sing, and my first show, my first high school musical was How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and and I remember at the auditions for singing, I thought, geez, I don't know if I can sing or not. I don't know if I can get up, but all the other people are getting up to sing. Okay, well, why not? And I got up there, and everybody said, "What a good voice you have." And so I thought, oh, great. So and I really enjoyed my experience doing theater and especially musicals. And in my senior year in high school, I was in the Clarkstown Summer Theater Festival, and they did a production of My Fair Lady, and I was Freddie Eynsford Hill.
Oh, that's a
And,
yeah. All right.
and people came up to me and they said, oh, well, who do you take voice from? I said, I don't take voice lessons. And one lady said, that's wonderful, but she said, Richard, do me a favor. When you go to college, take voice lessons because you might be doing something wrong. But the people thought I'd been taking voice lessons for years. I just, I had to. What happened was when I started to sing, I was singing from here, and someone told me, a very good voice teacher said, sing from the diaphragm, and he taught me how to sing from the diaphragm, and I took to it like a duck to water, and that's why people thought like I was taking voice lessons.
It's right. But I was always told that women sing from the diaphragm and men should sing from the condom. But it's a whole different sort of feeling. Yeah, don't feel you have to laugh. Um, let me also ask you. We're talking, by the way, Richard Holbrook here. Do you also? I mean, I noticed on somewhere. I think have you been like having a day job at the Paley Center? Is that you? That you deal with old film or old TV shows and things like? Or am I totally mistaking you for a different person?
No, no, no. I was at the. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Because you're kind of coming in and out.
That's what
Let me see
oh,
if I
wait.
can connect my Wi-Fi. Okay.
We're here with Richard Holbrook, by the way, who's going to be at 54 Below. That's 254 West 54th Street. That's happening this Tuesday evening. You can get your tickets at 54below.org. He's going to be there doing his show 20 plus 3 in 2023. It's directed by our
Yes.
mutual friend of the neighborhood, Jeff Harner. And he's going to be doing all these songs from the Great American Songbook, this tribute to New York from people like Richard Rodgers and Burton Lane, and there's a Charles Aznavour suite that he's going to be. How much more do I have to vamp, Richard? I don't know what you're doing there, but
Uh,
yes, you're going to want to see him on. Welcome back, Shalom. Do you fix it? Can
yes.
you hear me? Can you hear me?
You're coming in and out. Um, but anyway, but you can hear me.
Yeah, you're
Um,
perfectly. Yes, perfectly.
okay.
Yes.
The thing is, so what your question was? What was your,
I don't. Oh, I'm trying to remember what my. Well, it
oh
started
yeah,
talking about your siblings.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
standing out from them because you were the only one who wasn't a sports person,
right.
and then you realized, oh, this is how I'm gonna stand. Are all your relatives still alive? I'm just curious.
My brother John, in fact, he died a year before my operation. He died from tongue cancer. So
Oh wow.
so when I was diagnosed, I kept the news from my family for a week because I didn't want to, we had just gone through 10 months with John, and I thought I can't do that to my family. So, but finally I had to let them know. And but he waged a tough battle, and he was very, very brave, and I miss him terribly. He was a wonderful brother, and he was one of twins. Um, so I now have I have three brothers and four sisters, and yeah, and so it was before I could say I have four brothers and four sisters, and there's me, but now I have three and four, and there's me. But my family is very supportive of me, and the thing is, I was very, very privileged and lucky to have learned what I learned in high school and in college of music. And I did take singing lessons in college. And then after college, I worked with a vocal coach, and there was a production at Bergen County Players of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and I wanted to play the part of Finch, and I auditioned for it, and I didn't get it. And I was disappointed. But what I did was I turned the disappointment around, and I started doing. I said I want to do a concert, and so I did a concert at the New City Library, and that's what started the whole concert cabaret performing. Yeah.
Now let me ask you one quick question before I have to go and back to my shul and bring Dave in to
Yeah.
talk with you and bring you into the quiz. But let me ask you, what was the greatest cabaret show by someone else that you've ever seen?
Greatest cabaret show I'd ever seen by someone else.
Because you're in the business for 20 all these years, you must have gone to see other people's.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would say it's a tough question, but I would say that it's a tie. Marilyn May.
Still alive. She's 96, I think.
Yes.
Still performing. Marilyn May, yes.
Marilyn May and my friend Jeff Harner doing his Cy Coleman show.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, one of the best, two of the best cabaret performances I've seen.
well, people can judge for yourselves whether Richard Holbrook is doing one of the best cabaret shows you've ever seen by going to see him this Tuesday night at 54 Below, doing 20 plus 3 in 2023. And see it this Tuesday. Now, don't go away, Richard. I'm going to have to leave you alone for like 15
And so I'm sorry I got your name because it said Dave Lefkowitz on the bottom. Sorry.
Well, you're gonna be talking to Dave in like half a minute because he runs the show and he's gonna do the quiz and he's
But it's a pleasure speaking with you and meeting you finally.
Oh yeah, after all these years, yes, and you are a delight, and it's so great to see you looking and sounding so well. McMazel, like I'm gonna play a little bit of my. I would have you sing something, but I'm afraid Facebook will block it. Do you have something that is public domain that you can sing? For the moment?
I can sing a little bit of "Our Love Is Here to Stay" if you a cappella.
Yeah. I don't know if that's public domain. Just a little. I'll cut you off before Facebook mutes everything. So please, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Holbrook.
In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here, it's more than clear. Our love is here to stay.